Openings part 1, the Sicilian defense. The Sicilian always starts with 1 e4, the king's pawn to the center, controlling d5 and f5, followed by c5, delaying central action and controlling the d4 square. From here on, multiple variations exist, but I will focus on the Najdorf. This variation can be reached by playing the move knight f3, a good developing move toward the center, followed by black's d6, connecting the c, d and e pawns. Then white attacks the center with d4, to which black captures and white recaptures with the knight. Black then plays knight f6, the knight on the side where nothing has been developed just yet. White replies with another knight move, knight c3. The final move of the start of the Najdorf is a6, preventing bishop b5 check. From here on, white has 8 possible candidate moves for move 6, all either involving a pawn or a bishop. I will show you the 8 possible moves in a second. In the Word document, I have listed the 8 variations of the Najdorf, which you can see here, the lines of theory, with added links to the chess.com theory pages. So the 8 variations are these: the continuation with bishop g5, the English attack, the Adams attack, Lipnitsky attack, the 6a4 Najdorf, the Opolsensky variation, Amsterdam variation, and Zagreb variation. We will go over them all in this episode. The continuation of the Najdorf variation is move 6, bishop to g5. Let me show you the chessboard here. So bishop g5, to which black cannot rashly play the move e5, since it would be weakening the position and allowing knight c5, putting pressure on the pin. Then a more careful and top engine move e6 is played, to which white replies with the move queen d2, forming a battery with the bishop. Black wants to kick this bishop, pinning the knight away as quickly as possible, so they play h6, the top engine move. White then has a choice of taking the bishop or moving back, but taking the knight is the best move. And they reply with taking with the queen, not to mess up the pawn structure. This position is more or less equal. The engine wants white to castle queenside and attack with the kingside pawns. The second most popular variation of the Najdorf is the English attack, with the move bishop e3. This variation has a long line of theory up to move 16, which both players have to be careful treading, because if they mess up, then the position can be really hard to recover from. Follow-up moves are e5, which would not be as safe to do if the bishop were on g5. The knight has to be being kicked by the bishop, and so they bring it back to b3. Then the move bishop e6 is played, followed by f3, connecting the pawns and preparing an attack on the king side. Black tries to castle short, and white makes a battery. Opposite castling is played here, which means that both sides will want to make a pawn storm. Some more development moves, and here the first attacking move towards the king is played. Black immediately counterattacks, and here both pawns will kick the pieces. Both sides recover the knight, but white attacks on the king's side. All these pieces clump together with the pawns. Black tries to attack this knight, but white has the bishop first, followed by black attacking the knight. Both sides take a piece. And this is the end of the theory line. If we analyze the position of the 16 moves of perfect theory, then the position is still very dangerous, because if white doesn't pay attention and plays a blunder like a takes b3, then the game ends immediately with a back rank. Or if white gets greedy and grabs the knight, then black can take this pawn and a promotion is unstoppable. If black decides to take immediate action against this bishop on e3, that is possible with the move knight g4, protected by the bishop. That means that white needs to move the bishop away, avoiding the square f4, which would allow a pawn fork. So white will have to move the bishop, rotating it to g3, which can be seen here. So black gets a few tempo. Here the knight will move to b3 and the queen will move to d2, such as in the regular English. A third variation of the Najdorf can be played when white makes the move h3 followed by g4. This makes sure that white can attack the king side of black very quickly. Black has to make a slow move here, e6 instead of e5 again, because if white makes the move f4 later, they can disrupt the central pawns of black very harshly. So here g4 is played. Black will castle kingside. White develops the pieces on the queen side, and it's still open to castle kingside or queen side, depending on how black reacts. The Lipnitsky attack is another variation of the Najdorf that is played less frequently. It is played with the move bishop to c4, aiming for the f7 pawn. Black can either play e6 or b5. In case of b5, attacking the bishop, then white will move the bishop to b3. So b5, bishop b3. Then black can play e6 to cover the f7 pawn, and so the Najdorf will be left and it will be transitioned into a Scheveningen Solzhenitsyn flank variation. Next up is the 6a4 Nador, like so. As you can see, a lot of moves are repeated in the different variations, such as e5 here, knight back to b3, bishop developing move onto e6 behind the pawn that was pushed, bishop e2 to castle short, and if black castle short 2, it will transform into the Opposensky, which we will see after this one. And the Opposensky variation, which is bishop e2 for white, there are two main lines, the modern line and the traditional line. First, I will show two sequences for the modern line. Bishop e2 followed by e5, kicking this knight away back to b3. Black wants to castle, but in the modern line this is delayed, so white castles and black puts this bishop behind the pawn on e6. White then can play f4, moving the pawn toward the king side, while also putting on some activity on the queen side. Another line here is king h1. After this these moves here, so bishop e6 is played also in the modern line here, then f4 to attack, and then moving the king out of this diagonal, king h1. Black can also castle before putting the bishop on e6, which leads to the traditional line. So here bishop e2, e5 again, kicking the knight, bishop e7 to castle, which they mirror white. Then king h1, which can also be seen in the modern line to get out of this diagonal, so f4 can be played here. So the bishop to e6 after castling, f4 is played, opening up this file halfway, bishop capture and some more development. Queen will enter the king side to attack. If white decides to play f4, like we have seen in the Opposensky variation, but before castling, then the game can transform into the Amsterdam variation. So f4, I will show you three lines. These are definitely not all of them, so just a selection. Queen c7 for two lines, queen c7, and then bishop e2, preparing to castle. The Amsterdam variation is played less than the other variations. So another continuation of the Amsterdam variation is f4, queen c7 again, bishop d3 instead of e2, g6 to fianchetto, castles, fianchetto, bring the knight back, this knight developing, and queen e1. The third line is f4, e5, knight back, knight developing to d7 like in the previous one, a4, bishop e7, and bishop c4, and then castles. White should also look to castle soon. In the last variation of the Najdorf, white can decide to fianchetto the bishop kingside with g3. So g3 is played, followed by e5, kicking this knight. In contrast with all the other variations, the knight does not move to b3, instead it will move to e2, keeping control over these squares. So knight de2, black will castle kingside, and white will do so too, with the bishop fianchettoed. Then b5 is played, which is also a common move in the Zagreb variation, which we will see in the other lines as well. So here again g3 in preparation of bishop g2, e5, the knight is kicked, it will move to e2 again, developing the bishop to castle kingside, fianchetto, kingside, castle, castle, knight d7, okay, and bishop b5 can be played later as well. Another line here, g3, then again castle kingside for black, after b5 early on. So summarized, I would definitely recommend to view the theory opening page of the Najdorf variation from chess.com. It has a lot of information about each of these variations inside the Najdorf, which is explained pretty well. You can see here bishop e3, the English, the Opasensky, there's a explanation with some ideas how to attack afterwards. If we also take a look at Lichess, they also have decent explanations of the variations and the openings. Here the Najdorf, and you can proceed to click on the other variations such as the English, which also has continuations. The anti-English is also here. You can train with puzzles and so on. It has quite a lot of information that you can view.